The final bell rang at 2:17 p.m., but no one moved. Normally, the sound meant freedom, bags zipped, chairs scraped, laughter echoing down the hallways. Today it felt wrong. Too sharp, too loud, almost like a warning. I was sitting in classroom 3B, half asleep, staring at the cracked whiteboard when the intercom suddenly crackled to life. Attention, all students and staff. This is not a drill. The school is now in lockdown. Lock your doors. Turn off the lights. Stay silent. A wave of confusion passed through the room. Lockdown drills were common, but something in the principal's voice made my stomach twist. He sounded afraid. Our teacher, Mr. Harris, rushed to the door and locked it. He pulled the blinds down with shaking hands. The classroom dropped into darkness, broken only by the faint glow of emergency lights. "What's happening?" someone whispered. Before Mr. Harris could answer, a loud metallic bang echoed from somewhere in the building, followed by another. It sounded like lockers being slammed violently. My phone buzzed. No signal, no Wi-Fi. Minutes passed. Each second felt heavier than the last. Then we heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, dragging, uneven. Tap, scrape, tap. They stopped right outside our door. We froze. A shadow appeared beneath the door, stretching unnaturally long, as if the hallway light behind it was bending around something tall. Then came the sound. Scratching. Long nails dragged across metal, slowly spelling something against the door. SCHOOLISCLOSED. One of the girls began to cry silently. Mr. Harris covered her mouth, his eyes wide with terror. Suddenly, the scratching stopped. The footsteps moved on. Relief washed over us, but it didn't last. Because the intercom crackled again. This time, the voice wasn't the principal's. It was distorted, deep, wrong. "Students," it said softly, "if you hear this, don't hide. The bell has already chosen." And somewhere far above us, the school bell rang again. But this time, it didn't stop. The bell kept ringing for nearly a minute, echoing through the empty school like a heartbeat that refused to die. Then, silence. Mr. Harris slowly moved toward the door, pressing his ear against it. "No one make a sound," he whispered. Suddenly, screams erupted from the floor above us. They were short, sharp, cut off too quickly. We heard lockers slam open, doors crashing against walls, and something heavy being dragged across the hallway floor. Whatever was out there wasn't running. It didn't need to. My phone vibrated again. A message appeared from an unknown number. "Do not trust the voices." Before I could show anyone, the intercom turned on again. "Teachers," the fake voice said calmly, "escort your students to the gym for safety." Mr. Harris hesitated. "That's not protocol," he muttered. Then another voice joined in, familiar. It was Ms. Collins, the science teacher. "Please," she cried over the speakers. "It's safe. We're all here." But something was wrong. Miss Collins had died last year. The lights flickered. The door handle began to turn, slowly. Mr. Harris grabbed a fire extinguisher just as the handle stopped. A wet breathing sound came from the other side. Then a single knock. "Let us in." The voice sounded like many voices speaking at once. The window in the door fogged up, and a shape pressed against it. No face, just a dark mass, pulsing like it was breathing. We backed away. Suddenly, the classroom across the hall exploded into screams. The door burst open, and something tall stepped out, bending unnaturally to fit under the frame. Its limbs were too long. Its head scraped the ceiling, and stitched across its chest, written in blood, were the words, "Lockdown Monitor." It turned its head toward our room, and smiled. The lockdown monitor walked closer. Each step made the floor vibrate. Lockers dented inward as it passed, like the metal itself was afraid. Mr. Harris whispered, "When I say run, go through the back door." But the bell rang again. This time, only once. The monitor stopped. Its head snapped toward one of my classmates, Evan. Evan's name echoed through the classroom speakers. "Chosen." Before we could react, the door flew open. The monitor reached inside, its fingers stretching like shadows. Evan screamed as he was dragged into the hallway. The door slammed shut. Silence followed. Then chewing. The intercom came back on. One student per ring, the voice said happily. Fair rules. Panic took over. Students cried, prayed, begged. The bell rang again. A name echoed. Then another. The class grew smaller. Finally, only 3 of us remained. Me, Mr. Harris, and the bell. The lights went out completely. A whisper filled the room. Last class dismissed. The floor beneath us cracked open, and we fell. I woke up in the parking lot. Police cars, ambulances, parents screaming names. They said there was a gas leak. Mass hallucination. Panic. They said no one died. But that's a lie. Because every year, on the same date, the school bell rings once, after hours, and a name is removed from the yearbook. Mine is still there. For now. Yesterday, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Class resumes tomorrow. And somewhere far away, a bell began to ring. The lockdown announcement didn't come from the intercom. It came from our phones. Every student's screen lit up at the same time with a government-style alert. Emergency Protocol 9 activated. School lockdown in effect. Do not attempt to exit. Confused murmurs filled the classroom. Our teacher, Ms. Reynolds, frowned and walked to the door. She tried the handle. It didn't move. She tried harder. Locked. That's strange, she said, forcing a smile. Probably a system error. Then the lights shut off. The windows darkened as metal shutters slid down automatically, sealing us inside. The air suddenly felt heavier, colder. A student screamed from the hallway. Then another. We rushed to the door, but the small glass window was covered in frost from the inside, like something had breathed against it. The fire alarm went off, but instead of water, black smoke poured from the vents, crawling along the ceiling like it was alive. My phone buzzed again. New message. You are safe. They are not. Ms. Reynolds stepped back. Everyone sit down. Stay calm. But calm was impossible when we heard pounding on the walls. Not fists. Bodies. Something, or someone, was being thrown against lockers again and again. Over the speakers, a calm robotic voice spoke. Attendance is being taken. Names began to echo through the classroom. Each time a name was called, the student's phone vibrated violently and then went dead. When my best friend Liam's name was announced, he stood up, shaking. I don't feel good, he whispered. The classroom door unlocked by itself. Slowly, Ms. Reynolds tried to pull him back, but invisible force dragged Liam into the hallway. The door slammed shut. The lock clicked, and written across the whiteboard in dark red letters were the words, "Absence is not allowed." No one spoke after Liam was taken. Ms. Reynolds pressed her back against the door, whispering prayers. Outside, the hallway cameras flickered on, their feeds suddenly appearing on the classroom screen. We watched in horror. Students were standing in lines, motionless, eyes empty, faces pale. Tall shadow-like figures moved among them, scanning their faces like machines. Each figure wore a broken teacher's badge. One of them looked directly into the camera. Its face glitched, half human, half static. Attendance must be complete, it said. The system announced another name. A girl from the back row collapsed, screaming as the floor beneath her opened like liquid. She was swallowed whole. My phone buzzed again. Error detected. Unregistered student. My name flashed on the screen. Ms. Reynolds grabbed my arm. You're not in the system, she whispered. You transferred last month. The voice returned. Unregistered presence creates imbalance. The walls began to close in. Ms. Reynolds made a decision. She opened a ceiling panel and pushed me up. Go. Don't let them count you. I crawled through the vents, hearing screams echo below. From above, I saw the truth. The lockdown wasn't to protect us. It was to trap us. The school wasn't being attacked. It was feeding. Inside the vents, I found old student IDs, bones, torn uniforms. This had been happening for years. Every lockdown, every emergency. The school itself was alive, powered by a system designed to consume students who didn't fit. Below me, classrooms vanished one by one, swallowed by darkness. The voice became angry. Attendance incomplete. I reached the main server room. Screens showed thousands of names marked as transferred, expelled, missing, dead. I smashed the control panel. Alarm screamed. The shadow teachers melted into black liquid, screaming as the walls cracked. The school shook violently. "You cannot leave," the voice roared. I jumped through a broken window as the building collapsed inward. The lockdown ended. They said it was a structural failure. They said no students were inside. The school was demolished. But my phone still buzzes every morning. Attendance pending. If I don't reply, I hear the bell in my dreams. And something counting. The lockdown started on the one day nobody expected it. Substitute Teacher Day. Half the teachers were absent for a staff meeting downtown, so strangers filled the classrooms. Our substitute didn't introduce himself. He just wrote his name on the board in perfect handwriting. Mr. Gray. No first name. He smiled too long and spoke too softly. "If the bell rings early," he said, "do not leave your seats." We laughed. Then the bell rang. It wasn't sharp like usual. It dragged on, low and vibrating, like metal screaming underwater. The classroom doors slammed shut automatically. The lights dimmed to a sickly yellow. Over the intercom, a woman's voice spoke calmly. "Attention students. The school is now in lockdown. Please remain with your assigned teacher." Mr. Gray's smile widened. "Good," he whispered. "You're all present." I noticed something wrong. My class had 30 students. I counted 31. The extra desk at the back wasn't empty anymore. A boy sat there, pale, soaking wet, water dripping onto the floor. His uniform was outdated, torn at the edges. He stared straight ahead, unblinking. "Who's that?" someone whispered. Mr. Gray slammed his ruler on the desk. No questions during lockdown. Suddenly, screams echoed from the hallway. A door banged. Glass shattered. Running footsteps stopped abruptly, followed by a wet crunching sound. The wet boy slowly turned his head toward us. "I didn't leave my seat last time," he said softly. The windows fogged up from the inside, and written across the glass, as if traced by invisible fingers, appeared 3 words. "Stay for attendance." Mr. Gray opened his attendance book. It was old, leather-bound, pages yellowed, names written in ink that looked almost black, almost brown. Blood. He began reading names. When he called a name, the student felt it first. A sharp pain in the chest, a buzzing in the ears. Then their shadow detached from their feet and stood beside them, trembling. "No talking," Mr. Gray warned. The wet boy stood up without permission. "They take you if you answer wrong," he said. Mr. Gray smiled. "Sit." The wet boy obeyed. Screams erupted from another classroom, then silence. Through the wall, shadows bled through like stains. When my name was called, my shadow refused to stand. Mr. Gray looked annoyed. "Defective," he muttered. The classroom clock began ticking backward. A girl tried to run for the emergency exit. The door opened, for a second. Hands reached out from the darkness and pulled her apart like paper. Mr. Gray sighed. "Disruptive behavior." The wet boy whispered, "This is detention school." We stared at him. "For students who never followed rules," he continued. "They keep us after death." The bell rang again. Mr. Gray snapped the book shut. "Final exam," he said. The walls began to melt. The floor collapsed beneath our desks. We fell into a massive underground hall filled with rows of classrooms. Endless, identical, occupied by students who looked half alive. Some were skeletons in uniforms. Some were crying. All were silent. A giant banner hung above. "Detention never ends." Mr. Gray floated above us now, his limbs stretching unnaturally. "I was never a teacher," he said. "I was the rule." The wet boy stood beside me. "I drowned during lockdown drills," he said calmly. "They forgot me." The shadows attacked. Students were dragged into classrooms labeled with their mistakes. Talking, cheating, running, disobedience. I ran. I reached a rusted stairwell marked "Fire exit, staff only." The wet boy pushed me through. "Wake up," he said. The bell rang one last time. I woke up under my desk. Normal lights. Normal noise. Teachers said there was no lockdown. No substitute. No Mr. Gray. But one desk at the back was still wet. And on the board, faintly scratched into the surface, were the words, "Detention pending." Every time a substitute teacher enters our class now, I check the board. Sometimes, the name is already written.